got time for a fancy intro. You, yes you, look me in the eyes right now. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie is set to release this very year, and I am taking it upon myself to 100% complete every major canon FNAF game before it releases. I got the first 5 games in the core collection right here. Pizza Sim and UCN downloaded on my Series X, Help Wanted downloaded on my Oculus Quest 2, and a physical copy of Security Breach right here. That's 9 games for me to complete before the movie hits theaters. And I know some of you are saying that I'm missing out on FNAF World, Freddy in Space 2, FNAF Security Breach, Furious Rage, and Special Delivery. However, I said every major canon FNAF game, and none of these 4 apply to that stipulation. Because 1 is a bad RPG meant as a event project for Scott, 1 is a bad mobile game that the devs abandoned, and so that any lore relevant info is now moot, 1 is a bad Mega Man clone made for a charity stream that has no lore relevant info whatsoever, and 1 is a bad beat 'em up only made to promote Security Breach. Alright, with that out of the way, it's time to begin our 100% completion journey through the world of Five Nights at Freddy's. Well, that was terrible. Yes, you read that title. No, you aren't mistaken. I actually tried to go through every single FNAF game and do everything there is to do in them. And I specifically chose to do it on console because aside from the Switch version, the console ports have achievements tied to them. So I basically made this extra hard on myself. Over the course of 5 months in the background of all my videos that have come out, I have been on the FNAF grind. And I realized just how bad of an idea this would be from the moment I reached FNAF 2. And yet, with the help of several guides and a diamond will, I have become as good as I can possibly be at all of these games, from the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 all the way to Security Breach. Why would I do all this, you ask? Because A, I hate myself, and B, I figured this would be a cool video idea for Spooky Month. I was very wrong. Honestly, this segment has gone on for long enough. It's time for me to go through all these games and discuss the true torture of being a FNAF completionist. Okay, to be entirely honest, the first game ain't that bad. It's not easy per se, but it's definitely the least egregious out of the Scott games. All you really gotta do is go through the main 5 nights plus night 6, as well as get jump scared at least once. The only special achievements are preventing Foxy from leaving Pirate Cove on night 4, and preventing Freddy from reaching the right hallway on night 5. Simple stuff, really, but I'm sure many of you are asking, is there an achievement for beating 420 mode, aka all 4 animatronics set to the highest level? Well, yes there is, and it ain't that bad either. Obviously, if you're just starting out, this mode will appear daunting, but there's a specific strategy that makes this night so much easier. All you gotta do is wait for Freddy to reach the right hallway corner and keep your camera on that position to prevent Freddy from moving even when the cameras are down. That way, you can keep an eye on the doors for Bonnie and Chica, as well as occasionally check on Foxy whenever Chica's there. The only caveat is that you will need to put the monitor up and down several times between checking doors if you want to stall Foxy, which can trip you up, but once you get a rhythm going, you'll have this night in the bag in no time. Also, some of you may know that the console ports have cheats that you can enable for any noobs that are struggling in certain areas. However, I cannot use any of them because they disable achievements the moment they're active. So I had to get every single achievement legit, which, for Five Nights at Freddy's 1, I did. Now, I like FNAF 2, but in terms of completion, this is where things started to take a tumble. It's a similar case to FNAF 1, where you just need to complete the main 5 nights plus night 6, as well as get jump scared at least once. And the special achievements involve playing all 3 death minigames, and keeping the music box from dropping below 50% for all of night 4. Again, simple stuff. Then we get to Custom Night. FNAF 2 introduces challenges to the Custom Night where specific animatronics are active at specific levels. There aren't any achievements for beating all these, but I said screw it and completed them anyway, all for some stupid plushies to put on the desk. Yay. But in all seriousness, most of these weren't too bad. I did need a guide for a couple, but this was light work overall. Until I got to the one challenge that was tied to an achievement. Golden Freddy, aka 1020 mode. All 10 animatronics set to the highest level, and it was brutal. FNAF 2 is chaotic enough as is, so having all 10 animatronics constantly booking it towards the office all at once takes it too far. You want a chance of surviving this mode? Then you have to stay on the right side of the office, constantly check on the music box so the puppet doesn't get you, put on the Freddy mask if the animatronic is in the office, keep it on for slightly longer to make sure that Toy Chica, Balloon Boy, Toy Bonnie, or Mango leaves, immediately flash Foxy in the hallway to make sure he doesn't get you, and then go back to winding up the music box. You are never given a chance to breathe during this mode, and the strategy I presented isn't even guaranteed to work because of the RNG, particularly with Golden Freddy, BB, and Toy Bonnie. You better hope and pray that these three are merciful on your run, because if you make one wrong move or RNG just isn't very favorable towards you, you're dead. Accidentally hitting the wrong button when Goldie's in the room? Dead. BB getting into your office even though you heard a vent noise that wasn't him but a different animatronic? Dead. Toy Bonnie taking too long to come out of the vent causing the music box to get too low? Dead. Toy Bonnie being too fast for you to predict and react to? Dead. It is a never-ending barrage constantly coming your way, and even the slightest mistake will mean you fail. But by following Dako's strategy, eventually I was able to succeed. Here's the proof if you don't believe me. And little did I know that this was but a prelude to the rest of the journey. FNAF 3. The most underrated FNAF game, if I do say so myself. This one's a bit interesting as it has the same stipulations, but the special achievements are a bit tricky. There are achievements for getting both endings of the game, the bad ending where you just play the game normally, and the good ending where you set the souls of the dead kids free by playing random minigames. If you don't have a guide on standby, you probably won't even know how to access, let alone properly beat these minigames, but luckily this stuff is ancient history in the FNAF scene, so getting the good ending was a piece of cake. That only leaves the last challenge of the game, aggressive nightmare mode. This wasn't as bad as 1020 mode, but it was still very painful to do. Some people have found cheese tactics for this mode, namely one frame flipping the camera at specific points, but one frame flipping on console is so inconsistent you're better off attempting it legit. Wanna know the strategy for dealing with good old Willy on steroids? Well, there's several, but the one that I used was use the audio lure to keep him near the arcade machines, seal off any nearby vents that he could potentially climb into, be extra wary of Phantom Chica and Phantom Puppet as they can end your run instantly, and manage your maintenance when you have the chance. Here's the kicker though, Springtrap will, at some point in the night, get to your office door no matter how good you are, and when that happens, you better stare him down at the door all while hoping and praying the ventilation doesn't screw you over, and that's assuming he gets to you past 5 AM. Again, not as bad as 1020 mode, but it will take you a very long time to do. The sense of accomplishment was euphoric though. Five Nights at Freddy's 4? More like Five Nights at Freddy's Sork, because this one was really painful to complete. With the benefit of hindsight, I could find this one fun to play for a variety of reasons, but the completion process was frustrating for many reasons. For one, there's an achievement called Fun, obviously referring to the minigame Fun with Plus Trap, and I figured what I needed to do was win every single Plus Trap minigame as I played through it. So that's what I try to do, with as many resets as it takes. But then I noticed that the achievement tracker wasn't moving anymore. That gave me the impression that maybe the achievement was glitched, which naturally made me nervous. But it turns out what I was doing wasn't what was required to get the achievement. You don't need to win every single Plus Trap minigame, you just need to win one Plus Trap minigame and the Fun with Balloon Boy minigame located in the Extras menu. Lovely. And that wasn't the only one that caused me trouble. In the previous 3 games, there were achievements that required you to get jump scared at least once, but FNAF 4's equivalent requires you to get jump scared by all the animatronics. Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, Foxy, Fazbear, Nightmare, the Cupcake, Plus Trap, and Balloon Boy. Doesn't sound too hard, I hear you say. Just do nothing and let them get ya. I thought so too. But here's the thing. By the end of the game, I had been jump scared by pretty much everybody, but was still missing one single jump scare. So I go down the list of animatronics several times to make sure I didn't miss anyone, and discovered that 2 of them had 2 different jump scares. The first one being Nightmare Bonnie, which I found out by complete accident as he jump scared me at the bed rather than at the door during one of my runs. But the second one, you are not going to believe who the second one is. In fact, why don't you take a guess out of all these animatronics, which one has 2 different jump scares? Go on, I'll wait. Major guess? Well, you're wrong, because it's Nightmare Freddy. Yes, he has one when you're facing towards the bed, and one when you're facing away from the bed. How is anyone supposed to discover the second one? Anyway, with that tangent out of the way, it's time for 420 mode, and this one sucks too. but not for the reasons you think. While the animatronics are on steroids for this night, FNAF 4 is already a fairly tough game outside of Night 5, but that's just me. So in a way, if you've done all the other nights, you're already kinda prepared to tackle this mode. In fact, I had gotten so good at listening for the footsteps of the animatronics that I could beat any night while keeping Foxy from ever entering the room and getting in the closet, including 420 mode. So none of the main animatronics were that bad most of the time. The real problem was this black bastard! You see, this mode works similarly to Night 7, aka Nightmare Night, where you handle the main animatronics from 12 AM to 4 AM. And from that point onwards, Nightmare shows up, who's essentially a buffed out Fredbear. The only difference between the two is that the main four are slightly harder in 420 mode. Nightmare is the same across both, yet for some reason he would end my runs the most during this mode. He wasn't this big of a deal during Night 7, but apparently during 420 mode, he, along with the rest of the game, decided to cheat. There were several times during the game where I would do everything correctly and still get killed. Sometimes I would go to the door and Nightmare was that, close the door in time and still get killed. Sometimes I would hear an animatronic leave the door but still get jump scared when I checked. One time I saw Foxy at the end of the hall only for him to channel his inner Usain Bolt down the opposite hall and get in anyway. Things like this just sort of happened whenever they felt like it, and I was more often than not at the game's mercy. But regardless of all of that, I pressed on, and eventually, through sheer determination, I beat the mode and got the achievement. FNAF 4 really put me through the ringer, but I stuck with it through the end and was rewarded. Then I had to deal with its little sister. Sister Location is a rage game. Okay, not entirely. The first 3 nights of the game aren't really that bad. Why is there a cursor? I'm playing on console. I have controller. Why is there a cursor in my console game? Anyways, as I was saying, the first 3 nights aren't that bad. You just go through the motions and try not to get stuck with Bon Bon. Then comes Night 4. Yeah, you all know how bad this night is. It's so infamously hard that it had to be patched immediately out the gate. And even then, everyone hates it. It's only 3 minutes, but it's the longest 3 minutes you will ever endure. If by some miracle that you do make it past here, which I did, then you gotta deal with Night 5, which in my opinion doesn't get nearly enough hate. You see this room? This is your only checkpoint for the rest of the night. Every time you die, you're sent all the way back here. Why is this a problem? Because after running through Funtime Auditorium, you have to deal with Baby's keypad, and the sequence Baby gives you is completely random. Still not the worst thing in the world, until you factor in Maskless Ennard, who is all the patience of an angry chimpanzee. If you make even the smallest mistake, he will kill you, whether that's taking more than 2 seconds to hit the right button, or accidentally hitting the wrong button because the cursor is so awkwardly big and the buttons are so close together. Granted, after a few attempts I got really good at hitting the right buttons, but the fact that it's this strict is outrageous. And guess what? None of this is factoring in the Ennard boss fight. Normally you just have to follow Baby's instructions to the scooping room, but if you want a secret ending, which is tied to an achievement by the way, you gotta go through the Ennard boss fight in a secret room which is so ungodly strict. You lose power by the second and have to rely on your hearing and 3 specific cameras to know Ennard's position. And even then, Ennard will cheat sometimes by moving without making an audio cue, which can instantly end your run. Also, if you run out of power, which is very easy to do, you better hope you're like 2 seconds away from 6 AM because unlike FNAF 1, there's no prolonged waiting period before Ennard kills you. He is on you like a hawk the moment you run out. And remember, your only checkpoint is back at that main room. So if you're going for the secret ending and lose to Ennard, you gotta run through Funtime Auditorium, do the keypad sequence again, and ignore Baby's instructions just to have another attempt at beating this thing. Like, I know Ennard's fight is an optional secret, but could you at least have given us a checkpoint after exiting parts of the service? Anyway, I might as well discuss the achievements. We got the usual beating all 5 nights, getting both endings, and beating the death minigame. However, like FNAF 4, Sister Location has an achievement for getting jump scared by every animatronic, and each one has different jump scares for the story and the custom night. So unless you want to go through the whole story again, you gotta let yourself get marked at least once every time there's an animatronic trying to kill you, and you better hope that you didn't miss any. Well, once you've successfully done all that, you gotta do the custom night challenges, each of which granted you a cool cutscene for beating it on very hard. And unlike prior games, there's an achievement for seeing every single cutscene. Not a big deal for me since I've done every single custom night challenge present anyway, but then I got to the dreaded Golden Freddy mode. All 10 animatronics are once again set to the highest level, and they're all coming at you at once. Honestly, between FNAF 2's Golden Freddy mode and this, they're roughly even in terms of difficulty, that being incredibly high. Though to be fair, most of the animatronics here aren't too difficult if you've beaten every other challenge. The real troublemakers are Yendo and Bonnet. Yendo is basically Golden Freddy if he sucked away your oxygen, limiting your vision, and Bonnet, aside from being a lame color swap of Bonbon, requires you to click her nose before she passes by the rest of the room. She is the easiest to mess up because if you aren't fast enough, you're dead. The only way I was able to beat this while dealing with Bonnet was to lower the cursor sensitivity all the way down to 0 and putting the cursor in exactly the right place so that I wouldn't move while I flipped through my cameras. Even then, it still took me a few attempts thanks to Yendo screwing up my vision and my opportunities to boot Bonnet's snoot. In fact, why am I even dealing with Bonnet at all? I don't care if she's steel, she's a tiny little hand puppet. Throw her out the room, drop her, beat her with a crowbar, and while you're at it, hit Bonbon with that same crowbar when Freddy throws him. Whatever the case, after many attempts, I eventually overcame Golden Freddy mode and got the achievement, which will be shown on screen now. And with that, the core collection was now finished. Now it's just on to the other two Scott games. While I did initially find FNAF 6 a bit confusing, this was a huge breath of fresh air. The night sections were tough at first, and getting used to the pizza sim part did take time, but once I got my head in the game and watched the helpful video, I really liked playing through FNAF 6. It also helps that there's no custom night for this game, so instead, the achievements rely on you getting all 6 endings, beating every playable minigame, getting jump scared only once, acquiring all 4 sets of animatronics, and not letting any of the salvage animatronics in. The only ones that were tricky to get were the minigames and the blacklisted achievements. The former wasn't too hard up until the gravity vortex, which is literal bullet hell. And of course they used BB and JJ for this one. Definitely cost me a few runs because of it. Meanwhile, the blacklisted ending is really weird because most people still don't know how to get it. What you need to do is have 50 or more risk by the end of your work week, which can be accomplished by buying anything with high risk, especially when that thing is on sale. This can be tough to get since it's entirely random which items will go on sale when, and with more risk you'll get more lawsuits, which you'll need to spend money on. Thankfully though, with enough lucky wins from the Fruit Punch minigame, I eventually got lucky with the items and got blacklisted after 3 attempts. Aside from those two, the rest of the game wasn't that bad. Sometimes the night sections gave me grief, but the rest of it was fairly smooth and fun to complete. Unfortunately, this was the inevitable calm before the storm, because leering over my shoulder the whole time I played was the hardest FNAF game of them all. I was dreading Ultimate Custom Night the moment I started this challenge. I had heard many horror stories from people who've completed this game and did not have high hopes for completing it. I started small, or as small as I can with this game, by going down a specific challenge list, many of which I needed a guide for since I was just starting out, but eventually with enough patience and skill, I got through just about all of them. The only two that really became a pain were Old Friends and Chaos 3, but even then I was able to overcome them at some point. Then I focus on the achievements. I'm able to get 3 at first, the one for speaking to Old Man Consequences, the one for listening to all of Mr. Hippo's speeches, and the one for getting jump scared by every animatronic that has a death jump scare. Then I try to focus on the achievements for seeing all the goofy cutscenes in the game, which are unlocked for every 700 points you collect. And that, my friends, is where I hit a roadblock. You may have noticed that the title of the video is I tried to 100% every FNAF game, rather than I did 100% every FNAF game. And there's a reason for that. All of the effort I've put in for this challenge, going through every game, doing everything there is to do, and even going so far as to break my back over the hardest modes in every game, would all be wasted thanks to this. There's no easy way to say this, folks. I'm afraid that UCN's achievements are glitched. Let me explain. So I was going through each animatronic, only activating certain ones in different runs that would net me 700 points per run. But then I noticed that during my first run, the achievement trackers for both cutscene achievements just suddenly stopped where they were. What's more, nothing I did seemed to fix this issue. I tried going through all the cutscenes again in case I missed one. I tried opening and closing the game after every attempt. I even uninstalled and reinstalled the game, but nothing would do it. The trackers just would not move, meaning I would never be able to get these 2 achievements. Initially, this didn't entirely dissuade me. I figured I would come back to these 2 after getting other achievements. The thing is, the only achievements left were the Never achievement, which involves listening to Happy Frog, Ned Bear, and Orville's secret death quotes, and the Impossible achievement for beating 50-20 mode, which I wanted to save for last. Granted, there were 3 others that involved beating all the animatronics on easier settings, but they could all be wiped out instantly by beating 50-20 mode. So I go for the Never achievement, but can't seem to get even Happy Frog's secret dialogue. Then I find out that I have to reset the game in order to even have a chance at hearing it, and that each character's quote only happens once per attempt. So I reset the game and let myself get marked by them again and again, hoping to get the dialogue. And eventually I did get all of them, but the achievement didn't pop. I had heard every single one, and yet the game still didn't give me the achievement. It was at that point that my will was broken. UCN practically looked at all my progress and decided to spite me for it by not letting me advance any further. Maybe I could always try again, but I've already spent several hours with this game and have nothing to show for it. Even if the other 4 achievements are obtainable, it'd be a waste of my time since the game refused to give me the remaining ones. My initial mission of completing every FNAF game had been ruined by this single game. So why does this video still exist? Well, because I had an epiphany. I may not be able to complete UCN, but that's not my fault. The game is playing dirty with its achievements after all, and I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. So you know what? I don't need UCN's achievements. I still got 2 other games to complete, and plenty of time to do so. You can keep your achievements, UCN. Who needs or wants them? I'm moving on to my favorite FNAF game, and you can't stop me. You, UCN. I'm never playing you again. As I stated, Help Wanted is my favorite FNAF game, and for good reason. While its lore is absolutely terrible, the recreations of the first 4 FNAF games, as well as its own unique minigames, make it a joy to play through. To be frank, this is the one FNAF game I didn't complete on console because even though the console port does have achievements, it also sucked away a lot of what made the game special. This is a VR game after all. The completion requirements this time are really simple. In the base game, you just need to beat every minigame and find all 16 tates, all 30 coins, and all the miscellaneous rewards you get from beating a minigame. And for the DLC, you just need to beat every minigame, collect every exclusive miscellaneous reward, and find the Vanny mask in the corn maze. The rewards were fairly time-consuming, especially in Curse of Dreadbear, but with some time and patience, I got them all. In fact, with no worry about achievements or an ultra-hard mode that would take a week to finish, I decided to have a little fun with it and record my entire playthrough of the game. Or at least that was the plan, but the footage ended up being corrupted, and no matter what I did, I couldn't really resolve it. So we're instead gonna do this now. As you can see, I got 30 coins, I got the glitch trap plushie, and going to the prize counter, I got the exotic butters, I got the Vanny mask, and you'll see I got all the special items, all the plushies, all the action figures, all the food, all the toys, all the bobbleheads, and all the Halloween stuff. So yeah, I completed Help Wanted. There you go. I'm sorry I couldn't do the highlight reel. I really wanted to do so, and I had some really big things to say, but some things are better reserved for their own video. So, let's move on to the final game. Well. If it isn't Security Breach. The moment where FNAF truly said goodbye to any semblance of horror the franchise once had. But that's a topic for a different video. So, how is the completion process for a game like Security Breach? Well, it's a lot simpler than you think. You just gotta go through the story, or lack thereof, doing all the missions presented, shattering all the glam rocks and obtaining their parts, getting every single ending that doesn't matter in the grand scheme of the lore, as well as the actual ending, and collecting all the presents and duffel bags. The last one can be tricky, but Freddy's upgraded eyes and a guide can help if you're stuck. In terms of achievements, there are ones tied to all the stuff I previously mentioned, and the miscellaneous ones involve getting quote-unquote jump scared, evading an animatronic without getting into a hiding spot, zapping the comedy bot in the daycare theater with a Fazbear blaster, flashing 4 staff bots with the Paz cam, finding Chica's bakery, breaking 10 stacks of plates, and interacting with the glitches in the Hidden Balloon World arcade game. Easy stuff that's only hampered by the fact that you only have one place to save after 6 AM, because that's the dev's ideal of difficulty. The only achievement that might sound difficult is the Hide and Seek Master achievement, which involves beating the whole game without using a hiding spot. And even then, it's not even remotely hard given how dumb the enemy AI is. If I sound really bored explaining all this to you, it's because I am. Compared to all the torture the previous games put me through, Security Breach was just there. I had already unlocked like half the achievements on my first casual playthrough, so the rest were no problem. I guess I could explain why I didn't do everything on my first playthrough, because the same problem briefly appeared on my completionist run. See, when I reached post 6 AM in my first run, I ran into a bug that prevented me from ever calling or recharging Freddy, and I had no idea how to fix it. That, coupled with only having one place to save, caused me to just throw in the towel. When I got to 6 AM in this run, I hoped the same issue wouldn't happen, and it didn't, thank goodness. Until it suddenly did, sending me into a panic. This time, however, I looked into it trying to see if others had encountered it, and you'll never guess what the solution to the problem was. All you gotta do to fix it is go to the Fazcade entrance, and it automatically fixes itself. How and why does that work? I don't know. Aside from that, however, my completion journey through Security Breach was middling. I had some fun in a few spots, but I was kinda going through the motions by the end. Kind of a sad way to end a challenge like this, but I suppose this is what happens when you've already been through the rest of this franchise. Either way, that's that until Help Wanted 2 releases. A part of me is still a little sad that I couldn't complete UCN, but I'm largely over it. I suffered a lot, but I guess I've discovered the lengths I'll go to in order to provide good content. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. Just don't ask me to do anything like this ever. I made this decision on my own and I regret it. Next time's that return to a previous countdown of mine, and given the time of year, I have a feeling you all know what it is. If you don't, just check the channel. You'll spot it right away. See you next time, everybody.